All right, so in this video, we're going to go over questions 37 to 45. So question 37, the polynomial function defined by p of x equals, we got a polynomial with x to the power of 3 plus x squared minus 8x minus 12 has one of its factors is x minus 3. What are all and only the zeros of p? Okay, something to take note is when you are given a factor, you can go ahead and find the zeros, or in this case, the x intercepts. Zeros and x intercepts are exactly the same. Without me doing anything, okay? So on your test nav, you can immediately cancel out a and b because that is not the right 3. It's not negative 3 because you do the opposite when you're with your x. So the opposite of negative 3 is 3, okay? Now, in order to find the other zeros, you have to just put in the calculator. Use Desmos, okay? And Desmos will give you the x-intercepts. But something I want to point out, this polynomial, x cubed plus x squared, need to have 3 solutions. So x equals something, x. Okay, so we have 3 solutions. One of the solutions we got from the factors, so x equals 3. Now, to find the other 2, we put it in the calculator. So x cubed plus x squared minus 8x minus 12. And then it looks like here's that 3 comma 0 that we found earlier, and the other one is negative 2. Now, some of y'all might be like, wait, fundamental theorem of algebra says there should be 3 solutions. Well, actually, let's look at this. Do you see how at 3 comma 0, the graph goes across the x-axis? That just means that there's should be an odd amount of that 3. Now, when it comes to negative 2, it's actually 2 solutions, okay? So when you have an odd amount of solutions, you cross the x-axis. If you have an even amount, like right here for negative 2, you don't cross the x-axis. Instead, you make a little U-turn, okay? So that's why here at negative 2, it kind of makes a U-turn because it appears twice, okay? So the answer here would be, let's see, that is C, where x equals 3 and negative 2, okay? All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, 38. Here we're looking at a frequency table, and in that frequency table, it gives us 18 data points, okay, 18 days. And it's telling you how many times that person rode their bike for, okay? So, oops. Jonathan rode his bike every day for 18 days. And then let's see, it says, what is the median daily distance in miles that Jonathan rode his bike for the 18 days? Okay, so we should have 18 data points. It's asking for the median, so go to functions. Median is a statistics, and median is right there. Now, please do not confuse median with mean, okay? Median is going to be the middle, while mean is the average. Okay, there's another one called the mode. That's just going to be the most common. Okay, all of these you can access using functions and scroll down to statistics. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and put the frequencies of each distance. So for the number of days for just 1 mile, he did it twice. So 1, comma 1. There's 2 1s right there. For 3 miles, he did that 4 times. So let's see, 3 comma 3. Oh, make sure you put commas in between those data points. So there's 4 3s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. And then there are 3 4s, so 4, 1, 2, 3, okay. And then there are 6 5s, so comma 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then there are 3 7s, so comma 1, 2, 3. The answer here is D, okay. So don't even like try to just write it out and start canceling. No, it's easier to just put it in the calculator, okay. Next one. So an organization randomly selects 100 tourists finishing their summer visit in Spain. The organization asked them how many cities they have toured in the country. The table shows the results. Based on this data for the population of tourists that visit Spain during the summer, what is the best estimate of the mean number of cities toured? Okay, so this is going to be an average type of question, okay? Not looking for the middle, they're looking for the average. So the mean, the formula is the number of, the sum over the number of items. In this case, it's going to be the 100 tourists, okay? To find the sum, all we have to do is just multiply the number of cities by how many people visited that. So there's 10 people who visited 1 city. Then there was 40 people who visited 2 cities. And then there was, 50 people who visited 3. Okay, divide that all by 100. So we got 10, 80, and this is 150. That's 240 divided by 100. And I'm just going to put that in the calculator just to be safe. Divided by 100, 2.4. So answer is C. Okay. All right. The question number 40 is more looking at, do you understand the vocabulary here? Okay. So we have a fourth root of x is equal to y, where y is going to be a real number. This is the symbol for real numbers, okay? Real numbers include, like, I don't know, negative 1, 0, 1, okay? Those are all real numbers, okay? Now, the opposite of a real number, or I guess the what is not a real number, are something called imaginary numbers. Now, how the heck do I get an imaginary numbers? Well, you get that by taking the square root of a negative number, okay? So this would simply be just 1i, okay? So if I had something like negative 9 and I square root that, my answer, I would immediately take out that negative out of the square root. I get an I. What's the square root of 9? Well, that's 3, so it would be 3i. Notice how my imaginary numbers all end with an I, okay? I cannot have that, okay? So the question here is asking why is a real number, okay? If it's a real number, then that means that whatever x is cannot be negative. What must be true of x? X is, well, the only answer here would be D, because if y is a real number, then it cannot be a negative inside that radical. In this case, it's a fourth root because we have the number 4 right there, okay? So the answer here is D. If you did have a negative number here underneath the radical, you're going to have an I in your answer, okay? Those are imaginary. They're not the same as real numbers, okay? Next one. So number 41, we have m is in between 1 and 4, and then n is between 4 and 6, and p is between 8 and 10, okay? It's asking us what is the greatest possible value for m over n times 1 over p. Okay, this question is checking to see if you understand how division works, okay? If you divide by a smaller number, right, you're going to get a bigger outcome, okay? And if your numerator is pretty big, you're going to get a bigger outcome. So basically, you want m to be as big as possible. And if m is in between the numbers 1 and 4, well, the biggest m can be would be the number 4, okay? So let's go ahead and write 4 over. Now, n and p, we want to try to get to be as small as possible because we were trying to get the greatest possible value, right? The smallest n can be is number 4, and the smallest p can be is number 8, so 1 over 8. Well, 4 over 4 is just 1. So the answer here is D. 1 over 8 is the biggest possible value given those restrictions, okay? All right, the next one. Which of the following data sets has the largest standard deviation? Okay, so the ACT does not give you a formula sheet, but what it does give you is Desmos calculator. So we're going to be using Desmos again, okay? Standard deviation falls under the statistics field in math. So right here, statistics under functions. Do you see STDEV? Be familiar where the locations of these functions are prior to the ACT, because during the ACT, I don't want y'all to be like searching for it. You just need to know where each one is. So standard deviation is right here, okay? It's asking us what's the largest standard deviation. Standard deviation, its definition is basically the spread. How spread out is the data? Well, I just know if you have the same thing over and over again, your standard deviations could be 0. In fact, let's just put it in the calculator. 5, 5, 5, 0. Makes sense. If you have all the same data points and it's 5, there's no variation. There's no spread, okay? So let's go ahead and do the other ones. 0, 0, 10, 10. Okay, so this one's 5.77 for A, and then standard deviation 0, 1, 9, 10. Okay, we can cross that B out, and so now it's for A versus C, okay? So functions, go down to statistics, standard deviation, and we're doing 2, 3, 5, 7. So it looks like A is the winner with a standard deviation of 5.77. That means that the data is pretty spread out, okay? Next one. All right, 43, we have a geometry question, volume question. So Michael has a cylindrical fish tank shown that has an inside diameter of 18. So D equals 18. And I'm just going to write the radius just because this is a circle. So more than likely, you're going to use radius for any formulas. So R is equal to 9. When he put colored gravel in this fish tank, the water level of the tank rose by 2 inches. Okay, that's a really important number. What is the volume of the gravel in cubic inches? Okay, now, like I said earlier, the ACT does not give you a formula sheet. There are a couple of formulas that you just need to know, and one of them is the area of a circle, okay? So, area of a circle. Well, we know for the area of a circle, it has to have some kind of like pi, okay? When it comes to circles, pi is somewhere in that formula. And then, like I said earlier, when it comes to circle, the formula is just usually use R, the radius, okay? Now, something is missing here. There are 2 formulas for area. There's the 2 pi R, and then there's pi R squared, okay? Please do not confuse the two, okay? Now, the R squared, okay, that is the area of a circle, because think of it like this. Whenever you have like feet, and then when you convert that to an area, you get feet squared, That's how I kind of distinguish between the two formulas. Okay, so this one right here is the area of a circle. Some of you guys probably like, wait, then what is this? This one right here is going to be the circumference, okay? The circumference is just a fancy word for perimeter of the circle, okay? We just have a fancy term for the perimeter of a circle, which is the circumference, okay? So it's 2 pi r, but that's not what this question is asking. It's asking us the volume, okay? Now, what's nice about the area is if you know the area of something, you just multiply by the, in this case, the height, okay? So the volume, in this case, is going to be the area of the circle times the height, okay? So let's go ahead and put in our pi. R, again, is 9, so we're going to square that. That's going to be 81, and we're going to multiply that by 2, okay? So we got 81 pi times that by 2 gives us 162 pi. So the answer is C here, okay? So please, again, like, try to memorize that the area of a circle is pi r squared, okay? It is a formula you need to know. It's one of those that aren't listed, but you just need to know, okay? And then the circumference is just 2 pi r. All right, we're almost there. Question 44. So the table gives f of x, g of x, and h of x for all positive integers. X has to be equal to or less than 5. Given that, okay, so we have h of something is equal to 1. And then we have f and g of x as well. So we're ultimately trying to find what g of a is, where a is going to be our answer, okay? So we're going to have to work backwards, then inwards, okay? So we're going to start off with what value, right, makes the output 1. But before I do that, I need you guys to realize that, so we know that x is going to be the input. It's what we put in, right? While y is the output. Now, f of x is just a fancy way of saying the first output, okay? G of x is going to be, let's just say it's the second. And then h of x is going to be my third output, okay? Each one of them are given a different letter just so we don't like confuse all the y's, okay? So let's look at h of x first. So in h of x, what makes it 1, okay? So it's this one. Now, when h of x equals 1, that occurs when x equals 2. That's the input we put, right? Now, what makes the next one, in this case, f? What makes f of x equal to 2? Well, if I look at, let's see, look at the graph. It's right here, okay? That's when f of x equals 2. So that occurs when x equals 1, right? Okay? Now, we ultimately want to ask ourselves, okay, g of x, what makes that equal to 1? Okay, and that will give us our a, okay? So if I look, g of x, 1 occurs when x equals 5. So the answer is a equals 5, okay? So for these types of questions, you're kind of like going outside and then in. So you start off with H, then F, and then G, okay? So if we go ahead and like plug in x equals 5 for G, we get 1. Well, once we plug in, so G of 5 gets us 1, right? But then F of 1 gives us 2, and then H of 2 gives us what? 1, okay? So ultimately, you're working backwards and then forwards, okay? So the answer here is x equals 5. All right, we're almost there. We just got one more, and then we're done with 45 questions. So here we have an expected value problem. Each time coin C is tossed, it lands face up or face down. The probability of landing face up is 3 times the probability of landing face down. So something to take note is probability, when it comes to decimals, ranges from 0 to 1, or 0% to 100%, okay? It cannot be over 100%. Probability cannot be a negative number, okay? So we have x plus 3x equals 1, okay? Where x is going to be the probability of something happening. So we got 4x equals 1 divided by 4, so x equals 0.25, okay? So if we have facing up is 3 times, this is going to be 0.75, okay? And then down would be just 0.25, okay? If we add these two, they equal 1. So this makes sense so far, okay? Now to find the expected, we're going to go ahead and multiply the $1 with, well, if I get $1, what's the probability of me getting $1? Well, that's going to be 75, because if I get up, right, which is 75%, I get $1. We're going to add that to, well, if it's down, I get, wait, is it $2? Let me check. Certainly Winston. It's $2. Okay, sorry. I had to reread it. So we have $2, and we're going to multiply that by the 0.25, okay? And then we just put that in the calculator, so just delete everything. So 1 times 0.75, we're going to add that to $2 times 0.25, so the expected value is $1.25. So if I go ahead and participate, I should expect $1.25, okay? So that is A.